I have a very special guest on the Full Circle today. He is the vocalist of the incredible Aussie genre mixing band Ocean Grove, and it's been almost a year since the release of their incredible fourth album, Oddworld, which isn't just an album title, but also the band as a whole. He, with Ocean Grove, put on incredible live shows, and they are returning to the UK in November, as well as mainland Europe, bringing their Oddworld shows with their friends. A true innovator and an absolute honour to have him on the Full Circle today. His name is Dale Tanner. Boom, 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 boom. Hey, Dale.
Wow, what an intro. Thank you, DC. G'day, mate. How are ya?
Yes, no, I'm good, thank you. Always do these intros for people who I absolutely love and adore. You've been one of my favorite bands for a long time. It is an absolute honor to have you on.
No, thank you, mate. It's an honor to be here.
Pleasure. So Dale has made full circle. So we're gonna talk about that and how they link together. We're also gonna answer some tough would you rather questions. We're gonna also just talk about Ocean Grove in general. And I've got a quiz for you. The name I think is okay. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And also just general chat in between. So what I want to hear, Dale, from you, I know that you've done a lot of interviews and podcasts and etc. But what I want to hear a fun fact. It doesn't have to be fun, I guess, but I want to hear a fun fact that you've never shared anywhere before that you're willing to share on this podcast.
That's a fun one to kick things off. That I've never shared before. Oh, okay. It's a two part fun fact. One part it's very I guess just cutting straight to the the general questions when it comes to I guess first dates type thing. My mother, and I'm pretty sure I've never mentioned this in any interview or podcast. My mum is one of 13 children, so she was in my grandmother's belly when they got on a boat from Holland and immigrated to Australia, and then proceeded to have 10 more children. So I have 12 aunties and uncles on one side of my mother's family, from Holland. And so that, you know, I'll just say with that, I reckon that's a fun enough fact that usually blows most people's minds. You can imagine the Christmases over the years were pretty chaotic with 30 something cousins and 12 aunties and uncles all on the one side. So, yeah.
Wow. That yeah, that is very, very fun. Are they all still in Australia?
Yes, for the most part. Yeah, there's the odd auntie and uncle that's living sort of abroad. It's hard to honestly like keep in touch and stay in the loop with everyone. I'm closer to some than I am others, which is only natural with that many. But yeah, all based pretty much out of Australia. I do have some family in Holland that I'm still trying to meet, maybe on this tour. I'm not sure, even how extensive their English speaking skills are, but there's some cousins and things that I'm yet to meet that I think would be really special to go over there and connect with some family abroad.
That'd be awesome. Have you got a lot of siblings yourself, or
I've got one brother and two sisters, all older. So I'm the youngest of four. So not a small family either, but definitely compared to 13, it's pretty tiny. Um, yeah. So there's a bit of family background that I don't usually get to delve into, but whilst I had the chance,
yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, 13, I think I'm not saying it's definitely a record, but that's definitely the most I've ever heard. And I've spoken to a lot of
yeah,
people and gathered personal histories, and I've never had people having 13. So that's a solid,
yeah,
solid amount. Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
let's talk about the tour. So you're coming to the EU and to the UK very, very soon, and I know that you come to the UK, quite often. I mean, you must be, as per usual, you must be super excited about coming back.
Yes, I believe this is our seventh slash eighth time coming back. So the reason I say slash is because we did do a strictly UK tour with Don Broco, and that's why it's not just the UK, Europe, all in all each time. I'm pretty sure UK we've done now. Yeah, would be one more, so that'd be the eight. This will be the eighth time and seventh time in mainland Europe, and so uh, it's it's going to be um, a really great tour with Thornhill and Bloom, an all Australian package, and some really solid rooms. And I think coming off having done the Devil Wears Prada tour earlier in the year, that was just a really great insight as to how the new album is being received, and will be received hopefully again on this upcoming tour. Our first international tour ever was in Europe, UK. We came over for Slam Dunk and did some side shows with Beartooth, and that was such a fantastic introduction to touring over there in Europe. And so um, it's kind of that love and that, I guess, fan base and that connection has never really gone away all these years. It's just grown into something that's very, very special, and we become very surprised and yeah, fallen in love with certain cities that we never would have thought would be the cities that would gravitate and fall in love themselves with Ocean Grove. And they're the best kinds of shows when you can turn up, in a Paris or a Prague, and there's 200 people singing your words and up on shoulders with flags that have your band name on it and stuff. And it's hard to, coming from an island on the other side of the world. It's really, you dream of these things, but you don't actually think of those minor details, and the dream actually becoming true. And then when you're faced with that reality, it's just, you have to pinch yourself because it's just so special. And so we've had a lot of those experiences over the years to really give us no reason but to be excited for every opportunity that we get.
Fair. No, it must be an incredible experience to be able to do this and to call this your your job, and able to explore various parts of the world which you may not have gone to before, and yeah, make new fans. And yeah, it must be absolutely incredible. What I want to check though, and obviously this is no, I'm not trying to like stir anything, but compared to tour in Australia, are there like differences, or is it quite similar, or
We just did a regional tour in Australia. I kind of don't like calling it that anymore, because really, when now that we've done touring in pretty much every other territory of the world, it just it Australia has some catching up to do in terms of the opportunities that should be there for artists to tour a landmass as big as Australia. You go to America, which is, yeah, the States is just as large a landmass, yet they have. And I know there's so many more cities, and that obviously helps, but. Here in Australia, we have those intermediate sort of B market cities, but they sort of get lumped in the regional touring sector, and often miss out on a lot of the shows that, especially international touring, will only get Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and maybe an Adelaide or Perth if they're lucky. But all these other cities that have hundreds of people that are well and truly into the music and very much keen to come to these shows. It's sometimes often not, it's just not viable to be driving 5, 6, 7 hours to go to a show. And so, having just done that tour, it really reminded me of what makes touring in Europe, UK, and everywhere else special. I know you asked it, to make a bit more specific to Europe and UK. I think with the UK, I love that there's an understanding culturally. I think the pairing of Australian and British, like, sort of humor, and just, I guess, just a sense of, I don't know. There's just an underlying understanding with one another that really helps that transaction, how like, sort of transaction, just work when it comes to on and off stage. And I really love that. When it comes to playing in the UK, it just feels like, mm, it's like we're playing at home. We feel that love at home, and it doesn't. You don't have that jarring kind of cultural shift of, like, having to compensate and really make up for all those differences. It really feels like, oh, they just get it. And that's so nice, being on the other side of the world and having people just really get who you are, what you're presenting. And if you're sort of being a bit tongue in cheek about a few things, they're not going to take it the wrong way. And then in Europe, obviously, you do come across the sort of cultural differences and barriers and language barriers and things like that. And that I lean into that. I think that's, quite fun and challenging. But the thing I love about touring Europe the most, I would say, is probably the hospitality. I think that is second to none when it comes to touring around the world. Being able to rock up to any given show and have, a home cooked meal for lunch and dinner presented, and you walk in and there's beautiful aromas of chefs in the kitchen cooking up food, and it's just that when you're on the road for weeks is I cannot stress how much that makes a world of difference. It doesn't, to me, at the end of the day, after that, like, I love my food, I love to eat. Anyone that knows me knows that I can really eat. And so sometimes it's hard to get a decent meal when you're on tour. So in Europe, that's not a problem. You just know you're being fed well. It's really good home cooked food, and you go up on stage feeling like, that's the difference between maybe a great show and just a good show, when your energy levels and everything else is just ticking along just right. So yeah, that would be my sort of conclusion.
Nice. That's a good summary. I didn't. Yeah, I had no idea. In Europe, they give you a feast essentially. That's
They
that's
they
pretty cool.
do, they do. And that's where the UK I does come unstuck. So if we do the Europe shows first on the tour and then we rock up to the UK, it's like it's hard to ignore. You sort of go, "Oh, I was really getting used to that."
Stingy UK. No, I'm joking. Okay, let's begin with your first song choice.
Yes, so it would be remiss of me not to go with your suggestion. I think it was a fantastic one. To not go with our lead single from our album Oddworld. For anyone that hasn't heard it, it's this is a track that's very much started an exciting new chapter for us, and is something, a song that in recent months has proven to be my most enjoyable song to perform on stage. It's just the energy that it captures with the audience is unlike anything else that we've been able to capture yet. So it's a really exciting song on that front. The song, of course, is "Fly Away." And it's off our album Oddworld. So yeah, that is track number one on Full Circle.
Nice. Ocean Grey Fly Away, absolute banger of a song. Yeah, really personifies the odd world, culture and the album. And yeah, definitely check that song out if you haven't already because it's so good. And we'll link that to the second song after our first feature, which is going to be Would You Rather.
Nice.
So hopefully these are tough would you rather questions. Some of
Okay.
them, most of them are music related.
Yep.
Some of them are a bit more generic, just to mix it up a bit.
Yep.
I probably should know this before, unless you haven't revealed it. But who would you say just to help with the first question? Who would you say is your favorite band in the world?
Oh, I see that's always one that, like, just gets me stuck, because I've never been across the board, I've never been a favorite type of person. There's never been in anything. I don't have a favorite book. I don't really have a favorite album. I don't really have a favorite, band. It's like it's something that I'm like, and maybe I don't need to force it. I always sort of sometimes sit there and go, I should really figure that out, so that when it comes to these questions, I I know. But I'm always just like trying to spread myself so far across the spectrum of everything, that often it changes from year to year or month to month, and my taste and everything, just I look back 5, 10 years, and it's so different to it is now. And but gosh. Um, if I was to pick one, it's probably a toss up between a band called the War on Drugs. I'm not sure if you know the War on Drugs.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Or no, let's go with War on Drugs. They've been my favorite for a few years, so we'll stick with that.
Sounds good. Just to warn you, there there is a feature that I do called favorites, so that
Okay.
might not go
Yeah.
well.
Fantastic. Here we go. That's all right. Yeah. All good. I'm always up for a challenge. Maybe it's time. Maybe this is the moment that I realize.
Dear, oh dear. Okay, would you rather do an intimate show with your biggest fans and friends in your hometown, or do a massive arena show supporting the war on drugs to thousands anywhere in the world?
Arena show, absolutely. Hands down, 10 out of 10, no questions asked. Because, I actually get quite squeamish when it comes to singing in front of, like, say if I'm in a car and an individual, is like, "Oh, sing us a song." Like, no, absolutely not, that's not happening. Like, I just freeze up. But sing in front of 10,000 people, like, no problem. No problem at all. Like, give that to me every day of the week. So it's funny. Yeah, I would take that for sure. Especially in front of family and yeah, no, that's an easy one. Tick.
Fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
No, because I'm sure for some people, like they always say, the more there are, the more like pressure there is. But maybe in your case, it's like, no, 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 no. If it's my friends and family, I can't.
No, that's it. Cut the PA.
Okay, next one. Would you rather have to release an album every year, but you can't release any singles beforehand, or release one song every month, but you cannot release an album?
Albums for sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm a bit old school in that way, and I think so is definitely Sam, our drummer. Yeah, I just love an album. I love a start to finish journey and experience. And unfortunately, I think releasing singles nowadays is sort of just part of the game. But if I was big enough and I could just sort of flex and just drop an album like that, I definitely would. Yeah, singles. I could see the appeal, and that would definitely like be a fun, if in an alternate universe, just to be able to just, I don't know, put out singles willy nilly and whatever like that. I can see the appeal, but I think realistically, yeah, putting out an album without any singles would definitely be the approach.
Fair. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I'm definitely an albums guy as well, and I think, yeah, I love just listening to albums from start to finish. I think sometimes, you mentioned, it is part of the game now to just release singles, and it is. I personally, as a listener, do find it a bit of a shame that there are a lot of songs that have to be released beforehand because sometimes it detracts the album experience itself. But I completely
Yeah.
get it. It's about the numbers and streaming and etc. and getting exposure.
Mm.
But
And
yeah.
sometimes it does enhance it. I find sometimes if I'm listening through the album and I've really resonated with one of the singles, it for me, I'm like, oh, cool, like that's where it appears in the album, and that's just like I already have a relationship with that, so that's just heightening my overall experience of this first or second or third listen, like or whatever, you know. So sometimes it can work, but I think more so, yeah, I think it can detract. So it's a tough one, you know. You don't want to play all your cards, and yeah.
Yeah, fair. Okay, this is not music related. I'm just curious to know what you'd say because I found this one a bit of a weird one. Would you rather have to agree with everyone regardless of what they say, or
Mm.
never be able to agree with anyone?
I think I'll unfortunately have to go with the option A. Yeah, because I mean, you're dealing with absolutes here, so either way, it's going to sound or feel a little bit icky. But yeah, and I kick myself for it, but I try to be, you know, a bit of a like a people pleaser. It's kind of a dirty word nowadays, but like I do, you know, it's like just try and be agreeable, and what comes of that is like I also try and not get into altercations and raise my voice, and hopefully not, you know, like anything escalate from there. Like I'm just very much I guess a pacifist in that sense of always wanting to sort of keep the peace and yeah, unfortunately, keeping everyone happy is a dirty word, but I don't know, I just like to go about my life in that way of like, well, I do want to make anyone around me happy. Like, I'm gonna smile, and hopefully, you can smile too. Like, isn't that the whole goal here? Like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? So, I would have to lean towards that. Yeah, I think a life of the other would just be so miserable.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I agree. Yeah,
yeah.
you're not a troll. Essentially, you're not a troll. That's what you're
No, I'm
saying.
not. No, definitely not. Oh God, not a troll bone in my body.
Oh yeah, no, the thought of having to like disagree with everything that someone is saying would just it would just be like, But there are some things people say which I'm like, "Oh, I don't
Of
know, can I agree
course.
with that?"
Of
But
course,
yeah.
yeah, and that's reality, you know. Like we're yeah, if we're not dealing in absolutes, that's the logical path. But but then biting your tongue. Sometimes it's just I've found like it just finding an inner peace and just yeah, just being at peace with like what it is, what it is, and I found that to just be like such a relieving expression of like just it is what it is. Like I can't do anything about it. If I try, it's just gonna zap me of my energy and my like positivity and like what like at the end of the day it's probably for the most part not worth it. Like it's better me put that good energy into something that I believe in and just block out the bad. The whole good bad Happy Gilmore block out the
Yes,
yeah.
nice. Loving the positive energy vibes, love it.
Yeah.
Um, Now Ocean Grove have, dabbled in lots of different genres. I'm not sure you've dabbled in these 2 genres, so I'm curious to know. Would you rather make a country album or a funk album?
Oh, that is a good question. So I work with my uncle doing carpentry. So I've just come from anyone who's from Australia will recognise the Bunnings trade rugby top I've got on here. So and we listen to country music pretty much the entire time. And it's great. Like I was not much of a country listener before working with my uncle, but now it's just on every day and I'm hearing songs that I've never heard before. I'm going, this is actually really, really good. Like I actually like this. And also find myself going, I reckon I could write something like this. Like, yeah, like I'm sort of picking up the melodies and the harmonies and the sort of chords and sort of thinking, like, that's not like or guessing, guessing ahead, like, what note they're gonna go to and stuff, thinking, "Well, I could probably write something like this. It would be pretty good." But, like, I love funk and disco, and, like, that's just, like, nah, when it comes to, like, being on a dance floor or just certain moods, like, I love that too, but I I probably wouldn't know where to start when it came to writing a funk song versus a country song. I feel like I could kinda I'd be sort of on the front foot with that one. So I'd probably have to go with country, even though I do now really like both those genres.
Nice. So that's your next album, then next album's country album, yeah?
And it might have to be. It might have to be solo album, maybe. We'll see.
This is a bonus one, more for the Aussies. It's not really a would you rather, it's more love it, hate it, yes or no. So in the
Hmm.
UK, the equivalent we have is Marmite, but I know in Australia you guys have Vegemite. And
That's it.
what's your take? Are you a lover of Vegemite or a hater?
Oh, mate, I ate it today in bucket loads. I love Vegemite. Yeah, so much. When I'm overseas and everyone's like, "Where do you get your energy from?" Like, "Oh, you're so energetic on stage." I'm like, "Oh, it's just the Vegemite," and they just crack up. It's just such an Australian thing to say, but it's true. Like they used to give out Vegemite. My mum said it the other day, reminded me of it. And I thought, oh, it's so true. Like it's such a good staple for that. But during the war, that's where it originated from. I'm pretty sure it was like it was a really good high nutrient like sort of cheaply made spread to give to children to make sure that they were getting their B vitamins and sort of what they needed when there was food shortages and it was sort of hard to kind of come by. So its origins are come from a pretty pretty cool place, and I think it's deeply rooted in Australian culture and I've just grown up. I don't know a life without Vegemite, and yet I meet friends overseas that have never tried it before, and for me, and it might seem like such I don't know, a small fickle thing, but it's like it's as anyone from anywhere, any culture that has little things that makes their own the place, the country they come from, whether it's something that grows on their land or in their waters or something that is within their language or whatever. It might be so small, but it's unique to you, and that's what makes it special to share that with people that have never encountered that before is such a beautiful thing. And I had that experience when I was just in America a few months ago on the Thornhill tour, and we were there. with a void, and they had all of them being from the states, and none of them had tried Vegemite before. And a fan had actually given Thornhill a little jar of Vegemite, and I jumped on their bus one night. And I was like, "Oh, can I borrow that real quick? I'm just gonna head over to a void's bus." And I feel like they're about due, and so I whipped up some sandwiches, and kind of just I made sure to put it on just ever so lightly, because that's the mistake, or the intentional sort of prank that happens a lot with internationals, is that they're given way too much, and it's very salty. It's very, almost umami, kind of like on that sort of side of things. So you can't, like, it's very strong. It's a very strong flavor. So you can only have it very lightly spread over some toast or something. And for anyone that's not had it before, like, that's more than enough. So I knew that going in, and so I've just served them like the perfect amount just to give them the taste, and they're all looking up at me being like, "Wow, this is amazing. Everyone we've heard ever have Vegemite, like, they've just hated it." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's because they've given you like a spoonful of it, and you're just not supposed to eat it like that." So yeah, we often have fans that come to the shows and bring Vegemite. It's actually quite a nice tradition.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's okay, that's interesting because, yeah, our equivalent in the UK is Marmite, and
Yes.
I've just never got into it, and we lived in Australia. We lived in Australia for a couple of years, and people mentioned, "Oh, you gotta try the Vegemite," and I was like, "Is it like Marmite?" They were like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Oh, but I don't like Marmite." I didn't realize that you needed, because I think I got a massive amount once, and I was like, "No, I can't ever have that," so
Yeah.
maybe that's the answer.
There you go. Exactly. That's exactly what's happened. No, it's small doses for beginners.
And I know you're vegan. I don't it's it Tim Tams aren't vegan, are they?
Tim Tams are not. No. Oreos are, but yeah, Tim Tams aren't. Yeah. Which
Um,
is fine. I was never a huge Tim Tam lover. I'll take, if it was a would you rather, Tim Tams or Vegemite, Vegemite every day of the week, mate. So it's no problem.
I was actually almost gonna do that till I realized Tim Tams weren't vegan. But yeah.
Yeah, it would have been an easy win. But no,
Yeah.
no, well played, well played.
No, fair. Okay, thanks so much. No, thanks so much for answering them. So, Ocean Grove, Fly Away, how does that link to the
Yes.
second song?
Yes, we're gonna go with Cellophane by Don Broco, because we have toured with them on more than one occasion. I mentioned the UK tour. We also did earlier that year in 2023. We also toured with them in Europe with their co-headliner with Sleep with Sirens. So we were two notches on a world tour belt, which was really really cool on their Amazing Things tour. And yeah, so Cellophane is one of their new singles, and it's really got that sort of, yeah, very much in line with the kind of new metal 90s, early 2000s vibes that we've really tried to capture on this new album. And I think they're doing a great job of that too. And they're a band that we love. They just came over to Australia, and we got to hear those songs live for the first time just recently. So we caught up for dinner, which was really great to see all the boys and catch up, because we have so many shared memories with them now. And yeah, we love them. So I'm a huge fan of all the singles that they've released. I'm really excited for this new album. I think, yeah, I think they're brilliant. I love watching their show, and couldn't speak more highly of them. So a UK export to be very proud of. And yeah, I think the more that Ocean Grove and Don Brokaw align, and hopefully some more tours in the future, the better. So
Yeah, great choice. Great second song, Don Broco, Cellophane. We saw you before, but we also saw you at Coco when you were supporting Don Broco. That was it in 2023?
okay, yes, we did
Christmas time.
3 nights at
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and
So
that was fun when when you came out for Action. That was fun.
yes, that's right. I don't know if you were there the night where Caleb Shomer was there as well. I think that was maybe the Saturday
Someone.
night. I think it was a Friday night, Saturday night, and a Sunday night. And Caleb was there for, I'm pretty sure, the Saturday night, the second night. So that was super fun. As I said, we toured them back in 2017 in Europe, so it was sort of like we hadn't really seen each other in all that time. And we were there sort of side stage waiting to go on. He was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" I was like, "Good to see you again." I was like, "Oh, collision of worlds." It's yeah, really, really cool. It was great. We got to do that for, yeah, majority of that tour, a good portion of that tour anyway. And yeah, really cool of the guys to have us on. And Yeah, super fun. Fantastic venue as well. That was always a bit of a, sort of a tick the box kind of venue that we'd always heard about Coco being a really fantastic venue. And apparently that it's sort of becoming more predominantly focused on, I think maybe the hip hop kind of world, and not too many rock shows happen there anymore. But Don Broker had a good affiliation and relationship with the people that run that venue, and so they were able to get some shows happening there. So for us to play 3 sold out shows in a row at Coco, just like for a bunch of Aussies, was like, wow, if we never play there again, then that's good enough for us. That's pretty awesome.
There, amazing. Don Broco, Salafane, the second song on the Full Circle. Right. This is the quiz that I've thought of. It's called Odd, but not Oddworld.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so so lame. So essentially, uh, there's three lyric lines. Two of them are Ocean Grove.
Oh
One
my
of
God,
them
here you can test me.
is the odd
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
So I've to make it a bit easier, I've
Yep.
done it where I've done it in chronological order. So I've done it from Raspberry tapes up to Oddworld. So just to make it a little bit easier, hopefully.
Okay. Okay. Roger
Okay.
that.
s- so this is from the Rhapsody tapes. So here
Yep.
are the three choices. You got to tell me which
Yes.
one is the odd one out.
Okay.
Okay. So first, number one, take my hand and please help me understand. Number two, dead eyes speaking volumes. Number three, it's me, all three while dying.
It's definitely the second one. That's the odd one out. Yeah.
Yes. Nice.
Yeah. The
Uh,
first one, I was like, and then when you got to the third one, I was like, oh no, I know where that's from. Yeah. So yeah, nice. I like this game. Nice.
nice. Do you bonus points if you can remember which songs the two lyrics are from?
uh okay, so the take my hand, please help me understand is Intimate Alien.
Yes.
And then what was the last lyric again?
It's me, all three while
Yeah,
dying.
Thunderdome. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
nice,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. And I guess, yeah. I mean, I will be absolutely surprised if you can get, the one which isn't yours. Dead Eye Speaking Volumes. Do you know who that is?
No, not idea. No, no idea.
No. It's Parkway Drive.
Yeah, nice, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough to just tell when you're just writing things. But what I wanted to just ask you, I guess the Rhapsody tapes has been, has it been 8 years? But
8 years,
how
yes.
yeah, I mean, how do you look at that album now?
I love that album for a few reasons. Obviously being our debut album, it was always going to be something that we knew was going to be special regardless. It was something that we created in Sam's bedroom essentially, at his home, and it was just us. There was no outside forces working, and it was our first and only chance to have a debut album. It's sort of you're writing your own history in present time, and there's such gravity to that. And I guess it's sort of, it taps into that old school album album leaning romantic that I am and that we are, is that a debut album still feels like that. Yeah, you only get one chance at that, and it's got to try and capture the essence of what you're about. And if it doesn't, I think you're sort of you're leading with the wrong foot. And I'm so very glad, and I couldn't be more proud of that album as being that representation. Really, for most people, that was their introduction to who we were. And I still have meet people and have interactions where that album is, in their top 5 albums, favorite albums of all time. And I just sort of think, well, wow, that's a massive thing. That's a massive call to make. Like, and something that I've created is such a significant part of your music journey and experience, that you weigh so heavily on your life experience. And I just think it's only with maturity and age, I've only just grown to not sort of look back and think, oh, that's the old stuff. We don't play that anymore. If anything, we're looking to, as we're moving forward, and obviously it'll be coming up to 10 years anniversary. I would love to do some shows around a sort of 10-year anniversary for it, and we just did that for Black Label, and I think it'd be remiss of us not to do the same for Rhapsody tapes, and maybe even take it abroad and to a few places. We just did Australia for Black Label, but it'd be great to go and play the album in full, in places like the UK, and a lot of people didn't really get to experience that album. We didn't tour as much as I would have loved to when that album came out. I think it was just a little bit of a, I think I don't know, just an awkward time in the band. We were, but not long after we had gone through that lineup change and whatnot. But in that sort of 2018 sort of time periods, um, maybe owe it to a few agent sort of, I don't like dropping the ball or something, or I was eager as ever, but it just seemed like maybe we were holding off when I would have loved to have lent into a bit more touring around that cycle. So to be able to come back all these years later and maybe play some of those songs to people that never got the chance to hear them, would be fantastic. So yeah, I love that. I love that album. I would love to keep performing it more vocally. I'm feeling so much more confident in myself to be able to pull off a lot of that. I mean, ideally, we'd love to have Luke come along and do that with us as well. But regardless, I think moving forward, there's some songs from that album that we'll start sort of putting back into the set list. And I think that's going to be really exciting for our fans. I think there's probably a lot of people out there that maybe thought, oh, I probably won't be able to sort of ever hear those songs live again. And I think, yeah, don't sort of, yeah, don't cut that chance off too soon, because no, we have faith that anything's possible, and that's definitely on the horizon.
Nice. That's exciting. Yeah. It's a really good album. I think, as Oddworld is very, that you could sort of feel the vibe in Oddworld with that album. And I think, yeah,
Yes,
I think it goes hand in hand. Yeah.
for sure.
Um, okay. These are the three lines for Flip Phone Fantasy. So
Okay.
here's the first line. Sometimes I cannot take this place. The second one is she's a record over the back fence type. And the third one is floating fever, forgetting the heartbeat.
Yeah, okay, so, the first one is the odd one out. Um, the third is from, 1,000 Golden People,
Yeah.
and the second is from Superstar.
Yes. Nice. Nice.
Yes.
First one was Corn, Freak on a Leash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. Maybe for, like you mentioned, a lot of the international people may not have heard as much of your first album and maybe got into this album. That certainly was the case for me. I actually was in Australia at the time when I heard this album. I think it was during lockdown, and I heard Thousand Golden People, and I was like, "Whoa,
Mhm.
this is so good." Then I just put the album on, and when the first song is Superstar, I was like, "What a way to start the album!" I thought that was just incredible, and
Yeah.
just that
Yeah,
energy,
nice.
and yeah. I mean, how do you feel about Flip Phone Fantasy looking back now?
Again, I'm like really, really proud of that record. I think that was a very challenging time. That was the follow-up album post Luke's departure and me stepping up as frontman and vocalist of the band. And so it was always going to be a lot of eyes after the success of the Rhapsody tapes. You couldn't have always the follow-up album, people are gonna be curious, right? But it was the follow-up album after a successful debut album, plus with a new vocalist and a new second vocalist in Twiggy, and member. So there was a lot going on with that record, and I think it really captures how we were able to take those challenges and utilize the skills that we had between us, Sam, Twiggy, myself, and sort of infuse what we could and sort of create something new, and not try and just recreate the Rhapsody tapes. And we had a lot of fun recording that album. Unfortunately, it does also bring up the memories and the feelings of being in lockdown. You know, it was, and your story is not the only one. I think a lot of people did discover us through those lockdown years because of Flip Phone Fantasy, which is fantastic, and it got a lot of people through some really hard times. Which I'm I'm so in a way you kind of, maybe it was all meant to be, and maybe that's exactly what the album was meant to do. But a part of me was always so sad that we never got to actually do the proper touring campaign for that album. We essentially in Melbourne, we went into lockdown a week after releasing Flip Phone Fantasy. So it it was a huge blow to the system because we'd just built ourselves back up. We'd gotten back in the studio. We'd gone through the lineup change. We'd introduced Twiggy. We'd released the singles. We'd dropped the album. It just felt like everything was kind of on the back, on the front foot again. And then, yeah, COVID struck, and it was like, nah, all those plans have been, wiped off the table. And our manager at the time was like, this could be, a 2 year thing. And I was in absolute disbelief. I was like, no, surely not. And he was pretty much bang on. It was, pretty much 2 years, and we didn't play a show for 700 and it was over 2 years. It was like 736 days. We didn't play a live show. Our first show back was Unify 2022, and it was like by that point we were just leading up to releasing our third album, and it was kind of like that whole chapter. We got to sort of acknowledge it with a tour, but we had to just keep moving on. And so, yeah, mixed feelings about that one. Hard to not have it meddled with, yeah, a little bit of pain and hurt with that. But playing the songs live since then has just been such a joy. Songs like Superstar, we opened our set for a long time there with Superstar, and just having that, sort of the ringtone ring out and just coming out with that first riff was just like such an energetic way to start the show. So, the music will always be there. That time and place of having been able to tour it might not have been, but similar to Rhapsody tapes, that time may just come again.
And yeah, no, as you say, just a very unfortunate time and difficult circumstances. But what I really enjoyed was when you guys came to London, you came to the Underworld. We were there, and it was you basically played the majority of Flip Phone Fantasy at that time, and yeah, that was epic. So I'm glad you did manage to play some of the songs or the majority of the songs in your future tours. But sorry, it was
Yeah.
yeah, a tough 2 years,
Yeah.
before that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Um, okay, this is from Up in the Air Forever. So the three lines are: first one is "Take me to the future as I ride a one-way plane." Second is "Nothing's changed. Don't waste your time on me." And the third one is "Because if you don't care, then we don't care."
It's gonna be the third one that's over now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The first one's from Cali Sun, and then the second one, say it again.
Nothing's changed. Don't waste your time on me.
Ah, Noise?
Ooh, I
Did
think
I
it's
get that wrong? Hang
bored.
on, Bored. Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah,
Unlucky.
yeah,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yes, Bored.
And third one's Rolling Limp Bizkit. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I was like, I swear I just heard that recently. I'm like, "Oh, this can't be from my own song."
I think, yeah, I think in your set list you're not playing Up in the Air Forever at the moment. Is that an intentional thing, or is it just how you feel about the album? I don't know. What's your views on
Uh,
that one?
yeah, I think it's just like with this pivot back into sort of a heavier direction, it just felt like it was such a drastic move back towards sort of the Rhapsody tape sound that because we had a couple of years of really solid touring with that being the overall arching sound, it felt like now doing the more new metal, heavier sort of thing, taking priority. And to be honest, most of the tours that we've done has been a support slot where we only get 30, 35 minutes. So there's room for one sort of ballad type song or sort of lighter song. There's maybe a room for like a sunny or something like that. And then the rest of it, we do really need to prioritize promoting the new album. That's just sort of how it goes. So that might only still be only 4 or 5 new songs off the new album. It's not even the whole album, you know. So look, it's unfortunate that yeah, that because they are such contrasting albums that like in favor of the new album and the sort of the future that we feel is the right kind of path forward. We've had to sort of favor that, and it's not to discredit that album. We've had a lot of people that are like, "Oh, that's my favorite, favorite album out of the four or the three." You know, up until that point, it was sort of like, "Oh, they really love that and resonated with that more." And we loved writing that album. So it was like, that album too has really not had its probably full day in the sun either. So it's just one of those things where we've we've been so experimental with our creation, and really we dip into so many different sounds that it's hard to, when it comes to a live show especially. I think Sam is quite particular in terms of flow and how things are going to kind of translate, and chopping and changing and jumping between modes and sounds too much I think is just a little bit too jarring. So sticking in a sort of one lane, or at least a couple, has really good as of late. So we're just kind of going with that flow for the time being.
Nice. Yeah, no, completely makes sense. Especially with, like you say, the style change and Oddworld being, an amazing album. You've not played those songs live before, so of course you want to focus on playing those songs live, of
Yeah.
course. Makes
Yeah,
complete
yeah,
sense.
yeah. Now that we're getting more opportunities and stuff to tour as well, out the wake of COVID and whatnot.
Yeah. So this one's from Oddworld. So the three are, first one is You Will Never Comfort Me, I'm Free. The second one is One Nation Controlled by the Media. And the third one is Tonight I Step into This Feeling, I'm Alive.
Number two, definitely. um, the third is Last Dance. The first,
Yeah.
first is Cell Division. Um, right? Yeah, yeah. And then
Yes.
was the second one? Is that not Rage Against the Machine?
American Idiot, Green Day.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Sorry. Yep. Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Cell Division. Again, you're just so what I always just love about all your albums is you just start them off with absolute bangers. I think Cell Division is just such an I know you have the intro, but Cell Division is such an incredible way to just start off the album. And yeah, Last Dance is one of my personal faves as well. I mean, it's
Nice.
been almost a year now since the release of Oddworld. I
Yep.
mean, I'm sure you still feel the same, happiness and feelings about it.
That's mind blowing. It's already been a year. That's flown by. It really has. I can't believe it. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably Last Dance is probably a personal favorite for me as well. That's become a really nice. That's taken that ballad slot, at least on these shorter runs. Where we, yeah, 30, 30, 40 minute sets. We can put that one in, and it's really nice to peel it back for a second and for it to be a song like that that just feels so monument. I love, as a singer, it's like songs like that I really love and I lean into, and it's such a joy to be able to go from a song like Fly Away and the fun and the energy and the sort of mastering control that's required for that, but then sort of break it down and do something a bit more tender and heartfelt with like Last Dance, and to have those two happen within the same set, I think that's the kind of dynamic shifts that we're really sort of starting to approach. Is like we can still have a lot of variety, but it's just a little bit more focused, a little bit more centralized within this sort of odd world scheme.
Nice. And is there any been any thoughts about the next album yet, or is it too early?
Definitely, I think there's definitely been conversations and thoughts. New music is well and truly on the horizon, and because Oddworld was such a departure from the previous album, and really stamping, and really stamping our flag into the ground, and just being like, this is the new Ocean Grove, this is the new sound. I think that was great. But we all feel deep down that it's important that we deliver a follow up to kind of really complement that, and it not just be sort of like, okay, like, we're done it. It's that was almost like I guess, the reintroduction of sort of a new chapter, and we feel that a follow-up to sort of, yeah, to really, to pair with Oddworld and complement it, would just be the sort of the perfect sort of play. So that's very much where the head is at, and for us, the live show is so much, at the forefront of what we do, and really that's our number one focus, is to make sure that the live show is, of paramount, importance, and translates well. And we've found that, yeah, these sort of heavier, groovier, new metal leaning songs, are just translating like better and better than ever. And so, um, it kind of we kind of, in a sense, a sort of bypasses that. Oh, you're just writing the music for the people. It's like, no, we're kind of still writing it for us, because like, we found, and this was part of the reason why we wrote Oddworld, was that in those years touring, Flip Phone Fantasy and Up in the Air Forever, it was, as much as we enjoyed writing all those albums and all those songs in the studio and love to hear them in a recorded sense, when it comes to a live sense, we just love playing the heavier, bouncier, groovier new metal songs with the higher energy. That's just what we prefer when it comes to a live sense, and that's sort of why we're kind of now going, okay, well, let's write the music catering to what we think would actually be the live show. Whereas there's probably other people out there that sort of think, "Oh, I don't really care too much about the live show. It's just I want this song to sound as how I want it to sound and as good as it can, and it can be played in nightclubs or whatever, and that's fine." But for us, like, the live experience is at our core, and it's really important that we up on stage are having the best time that we can, if we want to sort of have a continuing career in it, and it to not sort of burn out or, fizzle out because we're not loving it. So that's sort of what's really geared our intentions in that direction.
Yeah, no, and the passion is there. I mean, the live shows are just incredible. And I'm glad that that the focus is on that. And seriously, if you guys have not got tickets, you have to. I can say firsthand, they're just so incredible live. Ocean Grove, you guys are just, yeah, I just absolutely love it live. So please, please, please do get tickets if you're, if you're not on the fence about it, because why would you be on the fence about it after listening to this? Okay, so
Ah, too
how
kind.
do we get how do we go from Don Broco Cellophane to the third song?
Yeah, so this, that song, if you've seen the video, like, you don't even have to have seen the video. It's very much got Matrix vibes. Shot in the tunnel. It also reminds me a lot of Prodigy. So it's very sort of got that, like, and Prodigy, um features in the Matrix soundtrack, and that was one of those soundtracks. I love the Matrix. Growing up, that was one of my favorite films. Still is. Growing up, that soundtrack, was one of those soundtracks that, like, Queen of the Damned soundtrack as well. Like that,
Yeah.
those two, I feel like were a really great introduction, for, especially, young kids, to a lot of these artists that, wouldn't have otherwise discovered it. Similar to like a Tony Hawk, soundtrack or something like that. And the Matrix soundtrack, was really good for that. Deftones, Rob Zombie, Prodigy, and so, yeah, their video, it mentions, the Matrix. The video is, very Matrix related, but also reminds me of the Firestarter, Prodigy, video. In the tunnel, sort of underground kind of vibe. So yeah. So I've chosen that. I was going to go with the actual song that is on the, Matrix, soundtrack, but Firestarter is, that's hard to go past, and because of the link with the videos, I just thought, that's a banger. And, I never got to
Nice.
see them, before, Keith passed away, which was so devastating. But, yeah, what a legacy. So
Yeah. Great choice. Yeah,
yeah,
Prodigy, Firestarter, the third song on the full circle. And same, yeah, I just, yeah, definitely a regret of ours. But yeah, incredible song. Okay, sorry to do this. It's time for some favorites.
nice. Let's go.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
Favorite Ocean Grove song ever.
Oh, okay. You know what? It's probably going to be Fly Away. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, well that's good. And is that was that one of the no, that wasn't one of the first songs you wrote for the album, because I think you wrote a different first song. Was it, how far along were you in the album for that one?
No, that was the first one that we wrote. Yeah, it was, because, um, it was sort of there was, like, bits and this is the thing, we sort of always have, like, little bits and parcels and demos sitting on Sam's computer, and, songs like Salvador Vision and things have been sitting in the archives for years, and then we sort of bring that riff back in, and all of a sudden it's sort of like, "Oh, we could use that in that way and maybe rewrite it," and, um I think the reason why Fly Away has just become, yeah, sort of my favorite. It just feels like, especially having Luke kind of come back in with this writing process and to be a bit more heavily involved. Um, it feels like it captures all the essence of what made, say, the Rhapsody tapes, and the energy with that just felt so free flowing and just OG. It felt like and it was Running Touch, Matt Cop, Luke, Sam, myself, and Twiggy, like the OG collective, as we sort of like to call it, the Oddworld collective, and it it's marks the beginning of this sort of new chapter. And as I said, is a really fun, super fun song to play live, if not my favorite, and that's probably why it's kind of now fast become my favorite. It's just it really translates well live. So yeah, that favorite has obviously changed over the years before these songs even existed, but um, I'll be interested to see what can sort of, take out top spot over Flyaway in years to come, because I don't see that song going anywhere for a long time in our set.
Fair.
Yeah.
What's been your, live music is so important. What's been your favorite Ocean Grove gig that you've performed?
Yeah, it's not necessarily. There's so many that come to mind. I mean, the first one I'll say is the first one that came to mind, and I was gonna say that it's not necessarily the actual show itself, because the show itself was good. It was solid, but like I made a few, mistakes and whatever. It wasn't we were by no means at the level of sort of professionalism and just like level that we are at now. But back in 2017, we played a festival here in Australia called Splendor in the Grass, and um, I think that at the time had such gravity to it. Because no heavy band and still had ever played, and that the festival's now done. So I guess no heavy band other than us had ever played this festival before. Like it's very much an more artsy, pop bands and rappers and hip hop. Like it's the kind of equivalent to maybe sort of like a Coachella of sorts, um, or a Reading and Leeds types of operation. But I feel like Reading and Leeds would probably be more likely to have some heavier bands compared to Splendor in the Grass at the time. And so for us to play it, we played main stage. Opened the first day and played main stage, which was the next night. We played the Friday. The very next night, Queens of the Stone Age were headlining that same stage. So, it was like, yeah, it was big time. It was really big time. We just put out the Rhapsody tapes, and it was like the Splendor in the Grass at the time was the biggest festival in the country. So for a metalcore, hardcore, like roots band from Melbourne to all of a sudden be on main stage at Splendor was just like, what's going on? Like, this is insane. And so that just for and the experiences around that, like it was like a 4-day festival. I got to bring some mates along, and we played the Friday, and we had all the rest of the Friday, the Saturday and the Sunday to just have a fun time and enjoy the festival after having, just played a really fun set. And um like yeah, that's just one of there's many really great experiences, but that one just always stands out as like just such a fun and just youthful, innocent time, where we probably didn't even then realize how good we had it. Now the festival is gone, and that time with so many close mates all in the one place at a camping festival, is just so precious. And I live for those types of days. So yeah. That'd be my answer today.
Nice. No, great shout. Yeah, I mean, my favorite seeing you guys at the Underworld was incredible. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of UK fans that are hoping for another headline show. Do you
Mhm.
think it's coming anytime soon or?
Um, I think I think, look, anything's possible. I think there was talks of liking to do, something on this Thornhill tour, the sideshow, but I'm just not sure. And usually those types of things do happen a little bit closer to when the tour sort of gets announced, just so I know the London show's already sold out, so I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem. Um, so we'll see how we go. I would love to. We have done a few of those in the past where we've kind of, yeah, tacked on that sideshow, and it's always gone well. Like pretty much every time we've done London, a headliner, it's sold out. So that's a huge, like sort of thanks to our fans there in London. They're always so great to us, and it's hard for it to not be the best show of the tour every time. Even on the recent Devil Wears Prada tour, like we did that whole sort of thing, and then when we got to London, it was like, okay, like well, we thought maybe all those shows are good, and then we get to London, we're like, oh yeah, it's like saying earlier, it kind of feels like a hometown show almost, like a Melbourne
Hmm,
show, which is just the best when you've been on tour in a foreign place, and yeah, so we'll see. Fingers crossed.
I've got my fingers crossed as well. Uh, yeah, okay, last one. Your favorite personal life moment doesn't have to be band, can be anything. What's your personal favorite life moment of yours?
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
No, that's huge, isn't it? Um, Favorite personal moment. Oh, this is great. This is really getting me to think. I can't, I it's hard to not get a little bit maybe sappy with it, but like, see, I'm an uncle of two nieces and three nephews, and so like, I guess it's not like one moment, but it's just that as a anyone who had like a child would be like, "Oh, well, the birth of my first child." But like I love them so much, like, and I have such a good relationship with them all and love spending time with them all that it's sort of like that as a collective. I don't know if that counts as an answer to your question, but just my nieces and my nephews, I think is just like such a capsulate that as my favorite thing. And when I'm at home and I get to kind of just go spend time with them, and I love my photography, and every time I get to, and I like to keep that. And I don't really share this much. I do keep it all quite private. I don't really share anything on social media or any photos of them or anything. So I do keep it very private. But yeah, I'm Uncle Dale, and that's my favorite thing in the world is being Uncle Dale. So that would be my answer.
No, I love that. No, that is
Yeah,
that's the sort of answer I love, just the family and that
yeah,
support and just being uncool and yeah, that family is so important and
yeah,
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, big time.
Um, Thanks for sharing them.
Mm.
It wasn't too hard, I hope.
No, no, that was actually pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, it got me reminiscing. That's nice.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Prodigy Firestarter, how does that link to the next song?
Yes, so this one I was tricky. I've never seen them. I've never had any personal interaction. I'm sort of like, where do I go from here? And then I was like, hang on. I'm like, so it's not Leroy Thornhill, the old member. Keyboards, I'm pretty sure. And I was like, I've never asked Thornhill this, but like, are they named after like, is that the link? I'm like, I'd never even clicked or thought about that. I'm like, huh. So I just thought I've just gone with that. I've just gone, okay, I'm gonna link that and go, I'm just gonna go out on a limb here and think maybe there's a half chance that they got their name from his last name. Maybe. It is spelt the same. So I'm like, there's a fair chance. And so I'm gonna go with Nerve by Thornhill. One of my favorite Thornhill tracks. As I mentioned, we've toured with them in America. We're about to do this tour coming up in Europe. So I think it's a very, solid and relevant choice. And they're fantastic live. And we've been friends for many, many years and have sort of grown up in the scene together. So it's so cool to be sharing stages across the world with them. And they're on tour right now with Sleep Token, just like on this huge arena tour over in America. I'm so stoked for them. It's just so great to see. So, yeah, Nerve was sort of one of, if not the first single off Bodies that right away just caught my ear, and I just thought, oh, that's that's great, and being able to watch it every single night. And again, I can't wait in Europe and UK to be watching their set every night. And I'm out the back with my handy camcorder, sort of capturing some footage and stuff, and it's the best, you know. So, yeah, that would be my choice number four. Yeah.
Nice. Thornhill, Nerve, the fourth song on the full circle, and one more song to go.
Yes.
Um, but before that, I know, as I was saying earlier, I'm, a psychiatry doctor, and I think mental health is really important. And I know that you've spoken about it in the past. I know that you've, been an ambassador for Support Act, and yeah, and I think I'd love to just hear your experiences and your discussion about mental health and advice for people that may have difficulties and whatnot.
Sure. Yeah, this has become, I guess, a topic that I've become a lot more invested in and passionate about, having had my own personal experiences. I think mental health is something that if you've never really had any interaction with on a very sort of real level, whether that's helping or having someone say close to you go through it and you're sort of there as a support network, or within yourself, um it's easy to kind of look at it and think, oh well, that that would never happen to me, or yeah, that sounds really tough, but like, oh, just like, can't you just grow up or get over it or whatever. And for me, like, in coming out of lockdown, and the strain and the stress that put on everyone, including myself, and sort of just the mental barrage and fear and stress and all things that sort of you're having to deal with in those couple of years. Um, it With a mixture of what felt like a little bit of existential crisis, a whole lot of stress. I was a bit underweight at the time, and there was just I got then I got COVID, and I got physically sick, and sort of there was an amalgamation of things that led to a point where I got really mentally unstable and unwell. And so I was dealing with major anxiety and depression, and it was something that I'd never encountered in my entire life. And so I was probably one of those people going along thinking, oh, I'm this happy-go-lucky kind of guy. I'm really positive thinking. I've never really even sort of gone close to anything like that. And then all of a sudden, within the space of a few months, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And it was like clinical burnout was essentially, in a nutshell, what I'd sort of hit. And those were sort of the symptoms of it. Like, mentally, it kind of affected me the most. And it was like, for someone that was pretty prone to, and have always been like prone to, kind of more sort of, I guess, OCD tendencies, overthinking and things like that. It had never sort of been a problem, because for me, it was maybe, I don't know, being neat and tidy and maybe clean, or sort of when it came to my studies, like, maybe I'm overthinking things a little bit, but that would get me a better result in my exams, because I've thought about things, a few more times, or I've been a bit more meticulous and a bit more of a perfectionist. But when it came to, I guess, the dark side of that, the rumination and the cycling and the things that happen when you've got these other thoughts that you can't sort of get out of, and keep cycling in your mind. And I felt myself that was sort of the biggest manifestation of it all, was this sort of, yeah, this cycling of thoughts and stresses, and like, just feeling, I remember just feeling so, yeah, like, these deep feelings of, like, shame and guilt and regret and hurt and pain, and all these things that, when you haven't felt that at a deep level, it can all just be so confronting all at once, and you don't really know how to deal with that. And so I would get on these loops of sort of thinking, and literally walking in circles, sort of thinking and talking to myself, trying to, like, come to terms with this new sort of world that I was occupying in my mind. And thankfully, I had so much of a support network, in friends and family, and in an organization like Support Act, that was not a long-winded occurrence. It probably all in all lasted about 6 months. I was able to get sort of, yeah, the support and the therapy and the guidance that I needed. And I was able to sort of slowly sort of regain in all those departments, regain my strength, my confidence, and all in all, really, the thing that I missed most was just feeling myself. That's what I missed the most. I was sort of like, I can't wait to just wake up one day and just feel myself again because I just didn't feel myself. And it just felt so jarring and I felt so separate to this identity of Dale that I'd sort of, I guess I'd become or had created in my mind. And so, Support Act was a major sort of pillar to lean on in that time, and so it really felt like in the years following, well, really in the months following, once I sort of got better and got healthier and sort of gained my feet again, and was like, I really want to give back to this organization that's really helped me so much. And so I started this show festival nonprofit event that is called Fully Amps, Fully AMTD, which are the initials for Oz Music T-shirt Day, which is the event that Support Act put on each year in Australia. You wear an Australian T-shirt on the day that they determine, and you sort of, you go rock up to work with a like an ACDC T-shirt on or whatever, and you don't donate some money to Support Act, and they're a non-profit. They're Australia's only, or I'm pretty sure, but they're Australia's music industry charity, non-profit organisation that are there first and foremost as a mental health support. So they have a 24-hour hotline, and they provide sort of counselling and mental health support where needed for musicians, crew workers, managers, anyone involved in the music industry. Um, and they're also there to provide sort of financial support for those that are in sort of financial crisis and things. So COVID was the perfect time when they sort of really came to prominence because there was a lot of musicians that were doing it tough mentally and financially, both at the same time. And so Support Act was really such a great lifeline for so many at the time. And I just thought this is such a great cause and an organization that has helped me personally. And I just believe are doing such a great thing. And we're so lucky to have something like that here in Australia. No, not everyone in the world has something like that to lean on. And so I thought this is something I want future generations to be able to sort of take advantage of and utilize as well. So I've started this fundraising event because I thought on Aussie Music T-shirt Day, there should be somewhere that people can go to and actually see live music, support the Australian music industry, put their money toward a charity that's going to then full circle support the musicians and the crew workers that are involved with putting this show on and keep the full community going. And then so it's in its third year now. I'm not sure when this will be released, but I'm actually in a few days' time going to be announcing the third year lineup and that the show is going ahead in late November. So I'm super proud of that it's in its third year and growing slowly each year and gaining more and more support. And so I don't know, the goal and the dream is to sort of get it to one day where I can be raising, I don't know, $20,000 a year for the charity and also bringing everyone together into the one room and raising awareness about mental health and celebrating the great community and live music that we have here in Australia and leaving the egos at the door and really just giving everyone a big ball of love and energy in the room and having live music be about that for a second rather than an album or someone's single release and just sort of focusing on something different. So that's been sort of my journey in the last few years, and it's really cool that it's sort of an ongoing conversation. So yeah, thanks for asking.
No, that is incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, it's super, super. Just the amount of work you're doing for this, and to be an advocate for it, and supporting people in Australia, supporting musicians, supporting everyone, and yourself. And I'm glad that you had the support network. I'm sorry you had that difficult period, and I'm glad that things are better for you now. I know your previous tours, you haven't drank, you do a lot of running and a lot of exercise to like keep your physical health, but also your mental health in
Yes.
good stead. And yeah,
Mm.
I'm glad that things are going well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's an ongoing journey and every day is sort of I might get a glimpse of sort of like, oh, that's a bit of a reminder of this or that. And so yeah, you do have to sort of and not taking for granted. And I think that's been a blessing. And I always look at the positive side of things. And I think, as hard as that was, it was a blessing, and it really made me appreciate and wake up in the morning, and go like, oh gosh, how good does it feel myself? Or, to not be sort of having to deal with that today, or, oh, that's come about. But I kind of know how to sort of tackle that now that I've got this past experience. And how good's that? I feel very lucky. So yeah, it's a blessing.
Glad to hear that.
Mm.
4-0 Nerve, the fourth song on the full
Yes.
circle. How does that link to the last song?
So this was a bit of an easy one. I sort of thought, okay, well, we just did the North America tour with Thornhill. One of my favorite experiences from that tour was we had a day off in Florida, and we were just outside or near Jacksonville, and we were with our tour manager, and she took us to her family home, and we had a lovely home cooked dinner, played some games and whatnot, and Thornhill boys were there as well, and we're all together and having a really lovely day off. And yeah, earlier that day we'd just gone and we'd kind of gone to a few different like shops, and just had a really really fun day. And later that night after dinner, we I got back in the car, and I was with our tour manager's partner, and he was driving me back to their place where our bus was stationed. And I was like, well. We're in Jacksonville. I'm like, oh, this is where Limp Bizkit's from. Like, and he's like, he mentioned to me earlier today. He's like, "Well, the way that we go back is like over the Matthews Bridge," and I'm like, "So like the Matthews Bridge?" And he's like, yeah, like from the song." And I'm like, "Oh, like we're gonna go over that?" And he's like, "Absolutely." And I was like, "Sweet." So like we get back in the car, and I was like, "Oh, so I've totally queued up my generation like for." And he's like, "Don't worry about it, mate. I already had it covered." So we're driving along, and we're approaching Matthews Bridge, and he's just like he's queued it up, and presses play. And just as we start coming over, like it hits, and that beat comes in, and just like I put the phone away. I didn't want to record the moment. I just wanted to sort of be there in the moment, being like, oh my god, I can't believe after all these years. Hearing this album and these songs for the first time when I was like 6, and having my cousin and my brother like introduce me to bands like Limp Bizkit. And after all these years to be on tour in my own band, and to find myself in Jacksonville, going over the Matthews Bridge, listening to My Generation with the windows down, just being like, this is epic. I can't wait to tell my mates back home about this. And as the song's finishing, we're coming into downtown, and I'm sort of seeing like the neighborhood that they grew up in, and what colored and gave experience and sort of gravity and texture to the songs that they were writing. I'm seeing the context unfold before my very eyes as I'm listening to Limp Bizkit, the place that they're from, and I'm like, what a cool experience that this is. After all these years, I finally get to sort of see where they're from, and in such a unique way, and have a local sort of drive me through in their own ute. And like that was just like hands down like one of the coolest tour moments like ever. And it only lasted a few minutes, but it was just like I said, phone down, just like be there in the moment. It was just that is the best time I've ever listened to that song, just like full volume. And that would have to be it. So yeah, the final song would be yeah, My Generation by Limp Bizkit. And I believe he said that it has to kind of link back in some way to the first song. And so I guess writing Old World, Limp Bizkit was a huge influence, and it has been a huge influence of Ocean Grove for a long time. We toured with them back in 2018 Australia, which was just one of the coolest things that we've ever done. Getting to sort of tour with them, and yeah, similar to Splendid, it was sort of like pinch me right now. I can't believe this is happening, but um, that would just be sort of the easy link. Is just the yeah, huge influence, the sound, and the sort of the nuances are there. When we were in the States, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you're like the Australian Limp Bizkit," and we're like, "We'll take that. That's a really high compliment." We're not leaning away from that at all. So yeah, that would complete my full circle. I hope I've done okay.
Yes, perfect. Hence completing the full circle. Thank you so much, Dale. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to have had you on the show. Was there anything else that you wanted to plug or add before we finish?
No, honestly, I think just the tour that we've got coming up with Thornhill, and also Bloom. Yeah, it's a full Australian package. I think this is going to be a tour that a lot of people, including myself, in years to come, will look back on and think, wow, what a special moment in time to capture all three bands. We're all releasing new music. We're all sort of each on our own exciting journey as Australian artists, and to all three of us be over on the other side of the world as this one package, guaranteed will never happen again. And so each night I'm going to be sitting there being like, well, that's another show. Like we're creeping, it gets to the halfway point, and then it gets to the three-quarter point, and then before I know it, the tour's over. And I sort of think, wow, like that will never happen again. That was such a special tour. And so if you're hearing this and you have a chance to come to one of these shows, please do. It's going to be fantastic. Thornhill are great, Bloom are great, Ocean Grove is, yeah, we're decent, but overall it's an awesome package, and yeah, one not to be missed. And I'm just super excited for it. So yeah, absolutely, get around it.
Yeah, 100%. Tickets are in the episode description. Do not miss out. It will be an absolutely epic night and yeah, an epic tour. Dale, thank you so, so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you
My
so
pleasure,
much.
DC. Yeah, it's been great. Thank you. And hey, hopefully we might catch you whilst we're over there in the UK.
Yes, definitely. Take care.
Beautiful. All right, you too, mate. Peace.